Simon, I have to say, the question that needs to be asked this lunchtime is that youth, why is youth being seen as the future of all sport in terms of the consumption of sport? Because we saw the debut of the sprint race in F1 at the weekend.
We did.
Cricket's new 100 tournament starts tomorrow. Just in the passing, I watched the 2020 the other night, England-Pakistan. It was absolutely brilliant. Not much, but it was exciting. And golf in recent months has been chasing a new audience. We know that. I mean, even people like Niall Horan was welcome at
One Direction.
One Direction.
He listens to this show, apparently.
He does indeed. He was down at Royal St George's as well, so he was part, albeit briefly, of Sky's coverage too. So I reckon there is definitely a change in direction here. They all have, what do they have in common? I'll tell you what they have in common. The chase for younger viewers. Now, Simon, am I asking an obvious question? Is it almost too obvious? Why are the younger viewers the sports dream commercial market?
Well, look, the next generation of supporters are always important to embrace, but you're looking at particular sports that have a problem that's greater than football. They don't have the same leverage or the same recognisability or the same broadcast deals. Whilst F1 is a big sport, it doesn't have anywhere near the revenues that the broadcasters pay to football or anywhere near the opportunity that football has. So you're looking at cricket that need to reinvent itself because Test cricket was becoming a bit stale, even though it's a blue ribbon part of the cricket pyramid. The 2020 campaign has reinvigorated it, and with the IPL and everything that went on back in the day to get cricket to a next level. There's a lot of accusations, as you know, because you quite rightly pointed out my brilliant magazine Octane. I was involved in the motor industry. Yeah, I found F1 to be incredibly boring and didn't find it enjoyable to go to watch races at Spa-Francorchamps, a cure for insomnia for me. So there's a nature of wanting to evolve. Yeah. There is a perception that the next generation are getting their media transmitted in a different way. Our generation, the generation between me and you, which is quite a vast one, would also been looking at things very differently. And then we're seeing people now, I watch everything on my mobile phone, so everything has to be delivered in a certain way now. So I think it's absolutely right to look at these industries and say, right, well, okay, we recognise that cricket needed a revamp. We recognise that perhaps F1 needed a revamp. We recognise that some of these other sports are needing a little bit more fast and furious delivery because the method that people are watching it on requires it to be watched that way. But I don't feel that football will need to fall into that trap. It'll need to recognise that the mediums that people are watching it through are people will grab. You'll see the social media guys starting to buy more content to give people segments of games rather than necessarily the whole 90 minutes. But I just think it's clever thinking, the F1 stuff, clever thinking from the broadcaster's point of view to be able to get these sprint races in because they're much quicker to the eye. And I think it's just a nature of being younger that you have less time and tolerance to get to the payoff. And I think that can be said of all of us.
Do you know what? And that is exactly what Andrea Agnelli at Juventus alluded to.
Did he?
There were a lot of raised eyebrows when he said this, but he was suggesting subscriptions for the last 15 minutes of games. It's not as crazy as it seems.
It's not at all.
As a means of attracting younger viewers, he says we could imagine a subscription for the last 15 minutes of a specific game. The attention span of today's kids and tomorrow's spend is totally different to the one that
but slicing and
was
dicing,
around when he was that age.
I mean, you got to remember this guy runs with the hare and hunts with the hounds. 1 minute he's behind UEFA, next minute he's against UEFA with the European Super League. So I take some of what he says with a pinch of salt, but he is right to suggest that slicing and dicing football to monetize it, to meet the demand, is the right way to look at things. They're not suggesting that the game changes. They're suggesting that the method of delivery, because we're in a digital age where, as I explained, most of us are looking at things through our phones and things of that nature, that they're now catering for another revenue stream opportunity, which is, okay, let's slice and dice it this way. These guys that don't want to pay for this, they might pay for that.
I get what you're saying, but I mean, let's take Agnelli's comments in and take it to golf. Now, if you're chasing the younger audience, you've got to keep the traditionalists happy as well. He's saying, if you take golf, if it's not interesting, only the last 6 holes on the final day might be of interest for part of the younger audience. You're not going to watch the whole thing. Now, the traditionalists will be up in arms at that.
Well, they won't, because they won't subscribe for that package. They won't sit there and say that I'm only going to watch the last 6 holes of a particular broadcast. I'm going to watch the full 18 holes because that's the subscription model I want. The guys that think, there's this debate the other day about match play and how match play could become far more compelling to the viewer, far more deliverable to the broadcaster, far more instantaneous and punchy. Because let's be clear, it's all about the broadcasters and how they believe the next generation of sport consumption is going to find its natural level, right? So with this in mind, if you're catering for everything and everyone, the purists are catered for, and those that want to dip in and dip out and want the money shot as quick as they can get it, and what they think is the key component of the critical part of a competition, I just think it's clever thinking. And it's what broadcasters should be doing. And some of the guys, specifically the F1 guys, are as smart as paint. Because they know that there's challenges around the broadcasting figures. They know that the guys that bought F1 off Bernie Ecclestone had to rev it up again and ramp it up again. So there's some really smart thinking. Your guy that often texts in, Martin Turner, he will talk about these things. Smart as paint, these guys are.
Oh, absolutely. But is cricket taking it too far? I mean, this new 100 tournament, it starts tomorrow. A single innings made up of 100 balls.
Yeah.
Cricketers will enter the field to pyrotechnics and music. They're aiming for a fresher look to attract and inspire younger audiences. 3D avatar technology will be used to add ingredients to the punditry. I mean, my God, the traditionalists. They've come a long way since Jim Laker gave it welcome to Lords.
Yeah, of course. And, the great people that used to comment like Richie Benaud back in the day and, watching cricket on BBC One when it was Test Match Special and whatever else, right? With all these great commentators, John Arlott, who's just... passed away. You look at those things and you say, okay, but like anything, if you look at the Friday evening spectacles at Surrey or at Lords and you go past it, they're packed. And we're coming out of a pandemic now. What I don't get, and maybe there's a reason why I've not got it because I haven't paid enough attention to it, is why you need 100 ball cricket when you've already got 2020. Because we're talking about 20 more balls in a game. There must be some logic behind it. There must be another space for it, another opportunity. But I think it's all good as long as you don't kill Test cricket, as long as you don't take away, because county cricket economically dying on its backside, one man and his dog down at Hove watching cricket matches. And you need this evolution to be able to feed the more purist side of cricket. Where
so the more brainstorming, the better.
Oh, absolutely. Can't be wrong.
I know this is right up your street because if it's there to be shaken up, you want things shaken up.
Yeah, I don't just want change for change's sake because all that is change. What you want, you don't need revolution. You need an evolution. You need to be able to look at how people are watching cricket, how they're consuming it, or any sport, whether it's golf, F1, or football, and say, right, okay, what's the next trend and opportunity? And then you want that money to monetize the game and to monetize the grassroots and to make sure that a country that offers so much in terms of sporting prowess and sporting support then has the facilities through the professional game, because the broadcasters are slicing and dicing the opportunity for it so much that actually what we see is our kids getting better facilities around the country.
I've got to say to you, Martin Turner, you mentioned there, the former top one in terms of Sky's coverage of F1, the top man there. A lot of the top people at Sky, I know, listen to us. And it's humbling, it's flattering, and it's great. If there's one change you could make to the coverage of a Premier League match on TV, let's make Simon Jordan the head of the broadcaster today, what would that be? Would there be a couple? What would you make to serve a better Premier League match coverage with one extra ingredient it doesn't have?
Do you know what? I really do think that the quality of broadcasting, irrespective of some of the disdain that I have for Sky, and I do, but some of the broadcasting quality and the composition that they put together and the reasons why football has elevated to the level of wealth that these footballers don't even know they're born economically is because of the genius of Sky. Because of the genius. Look what they've done to the darts. Look what they've done to every single sport that they've touched. They've put it into a different level.
Sunday night, the golf's coverage of the final round at Royal St George's
phenomenal.
Was sensational.
And the BBC are phenomenal as
Nick
well.
Doherty, Andrew Coulthard, it was brilliant.
But if you look at, I can't off the top of my head suggest that there's a better way of covering. I think you can do better interviews. I think you can do more insights. I certainly don't think you should have cameras in dressing rooms or in dugouts. And I certainly think some of the pundits need to be cut off at the knees. But by the actual featuring of the sport and the actual content that we're seeing, it's difficult to be a smart ass and sit there and say, well, do that better, because it's pretty bloody good now.
Do you think, is there anything to suggest that what Agnelli suggests could actually come to light?
Yeah, of course.
A subscription for certain parts of a game.
And I tell you where that lands. It lands at Facebook, or it lands in Instagram, or it lands in one of the other social media companies that are currently not really bidding that much for the rights and not really interested in getting that much. And everyone forecast a revolution around the way that these packages are going to be sold, and they didn't come to the party. We saw Amazon drop in and buy some packages because they wanted to supplement their shopping days over Christmas, right? But we haven't seen the Facebooks and the social media guys come in. To some extent, we probably don't want them there given what goes on their platforms, but this is where I think this lands.
Yeah.
I think it lands in that space and it generates more money, and as long as that money doesn't just go into the pockets of footballers and can actually do the ecosystem good, then who cares how we subscribe and look at football?
You could also argue it's a bit of a swipe at some of the youth of today who allegedly don't have the attention span required to watch a 90-minute match.
Well, look, I mean, how many people watch
I know you switch off and I talk a lot.
I do, absolutely, and understandable.
Sure.
But when you look at Match of the Day and the viewing figures of Match of the Day, which is a format which is probably outdated and outmoded, yet you've got people like Gary Lineker sitting on it getting paid £1.5 million a year for doing that job, and all we're seeing is highlights.
To introduce recorded highlights.
So there is an audience for it, isn't there?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wonder if Agnelli will hear about that conversation. Let's hope so. Just gone 12:15.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.